Alright everyone, pretty straightforward video today. I wanted to share with you guys the best fail stack levels to use VALKS Cry on, and I wanted to share with you guys several different fail stack levels that you can actually go with and give you guys the pros and cons, what I personally do, very importantly, the fail stack levels that I would avoid using VALKS Cry on, because these things are actually reasonably valuable. They're worth several million silver each. They're really useful for enhancing. The problem is, because they're valuable and they're a bit limited, you're definitely not going to get enough of these to feel like you can use them all the time. You're going to have to be a bit selective, you're going to have to make smart decisions, and you're going to have to pick and choose what fail stack levels to use them on appropriately, or you're always going to find out that you run out. So if you don't know what this does, it's going to give you additional enhancement levels. Each VALKS Cry gives you +1 to your enhancement chance. However, there is a maximum of 10, so you can't just keep spamming these for, essentially infinite fail stack levels. That would obviously be incredibly overpowered, so it does cap out at +10. And also, very importantly, I'm not going to get too much into it in this video, but it is very important to note, especially for more intermediate or advanced players into enhancing. The VALKS enhancement chance is separate from the regular enhancement chance, which is very useful for things like using your blacksmith books and moving your fail stacks between alts and that sort of stuff. That's all I'm going to really say about that now, because that's a whole topic for another video. Now let's actually get into the different options for what fail stack levels that you can end up using these on and what's going to be your best choice. So there's a few different options here. Some of them are optional, some of them are really bad, and then one of them is like absolutely mandatory. If you get to that fail stack level, you're absolutely going to want to make sure that at that point you are using VALKS Cry. And I'll tell you guys, let's go with the bad option first. What fail stack levels do you not want to end up using VALKS Cry on? And I'm going to say, generally speaking, think of it in terms of gear. Anything before 10 attempts generally, and I'm not talking about Black Star, I'm just talking about regular gear, greens, blues, boss gear. That's right, even boss gear. Anything before your try to your 10 attempts, you're not going to want to use VALKS Cry. And that's simply because the fail stack levels that you generally use for those enhancements are going to be lower than 50 or so. I put that video out a couple of days ago about my fail stack recommendations for boss gear, and I mentioned like prior to duo boss gear, roughly 29 to 38 is what I like to use. So you're in the 30s. That's too low to use VALKS enhancement because these are worth several million silver each, and you're going to want to use 10 of them, so you're looking at a lot of silver. And if you use them to boost like a 29 or a 30 fail stack to 40, you're not really getting the value for these compared to what they're actually worth. The fail stack levels that you gain are actually going to be worth less than how much each VALKS Cry is. Now, even when it comes to like duo to try, right? Duo to try, I like to do for boss gear like roughly 38 to 50. That's still a bit low. And another big thing about this is that you're gonna do so many duos to try for every try to tet that if you use your VALKS enhancement chances and your VALKS Cry for all of your duo to tries, you're going to end up running out of these really quickly. And depending on the server that you play on, I don't really know. On NA, they're a bit easier to come by because we've got a lot of costume whales and the market and whatnot. But depending on the server, these might not be as easy to come by. We do get them from events here and there and little handouts, but not really a whole lot. And depending on how many you're going to have access to, you're not going to want to use them on duo to try just because of how many duo to try you're going to end up doing throughout your Black Desert gameplay. So let's get to the first, basically the first minimally acceptable point. And I'm not going to say this as the exact level. You can go +5, -5, something like that, right? As long as it's a general ballpark. But the level I want to mention here is going to be around 50. This is generally like the first point that opens up as a good, reasonable, solid option to start using your VALKS Cry. And of course, you can end up using all 10 of them here. Now, the level doesn't have to be exactly 50. It can be plus minus. The important thing is not the level, rather it is for what type of gear enhancing, and it's going to be for your tet attempts. And more specifically, I want to say, and this is really important to note for more intermediate advanced players, I would really stick to primarily, at least with the markets the way they are, VALKS Cry just for boss gear tet attempts. Because generally speaking, when you're enhancing with green and blue gear, you're ideally enhancing that gear to actually increase your fail stack levels, which means you're actually trying to fail to build your fail stacks rather than to end up getting the result. That's not always the case, but that's just a general rule of thumb. So, if that's the case when it comes to your green and blues, well, you won't want to use VALKS Cry to increase your chance if your goal with doing greens and blue TET attempts is to end up building your fail stack. So for boss gear though, on the other hand, TET boss gear is valuable. It's going to sell for a lot. It's a very, very good outcome. And, depending on the price of memory fragments and all sorts of stuff on the server that you're at, whenever you do start doing your TET boss gear attempts, it is definitely not a bad play. In fact, I will say it is a very good play to start using your VALKS Cry at that time. So it might not necessarily be level 50. Like right now in the NA market, we have a very expensive price for memory fragments for what we usually have. Now I know compared to other servers, it's not really that high, but for NA, we're kind of at a high price for memory fragments. And because of that, I'm not starting my TET boss gear attempts until, like 60 or 70. Whereas normally when memory fragments are lower, I'd start at 50. Because of that, normally I would use my VALKS Cry at 50 and go up to a 60 stack and then start doing my TET boss gear attempts. But, because of the market right now, instead, I'm going to click on a couple of greens, click on a couple of blues to hopefully fail and build those fail stack levels. And then, at 60 or 70, once I do end up doing my boss gear attempts, that's when I'm going to end up using my 10 VALKS Cry. So it'll bring a 50 stack up to a 60, 60 up to 70, 70 up to 80, so on and so forth. Now, after I finished explaining all that, I'm going to tell you guys this info right here is a little bit more intermediate advanced. For newer-ish players, I would just stick to what I just said right there. For more intermediate advanced players, I will say that there is another option here. And I am very, very okay with it. As somebody who spends a lot of time enhancing, both on-stream, off-stream, the amount of hours I put into enhancing in the last month is pretty crazy. I am actually okay with the option of actually waiting to use your VALKS Cry all the way until 100 fail stacks. And the reason why I say that is because if you do not have any high fail stacks to work with, and again, newer players, if you have 100 stacks to work with, if you've gotten some that they've given out from events, if you haven't used them, you don't really need to worry about this. But if you do a lot of enhancing, you're going to notice that you're probably not going to have as many 100 fail stacks as you want. They're so useful, so valuable. They're worth probably 1 to 2 billion silver each. Hard to put an exact price on it, obviously going to depend on the server, but they are really useful because not only are they going to be the great level to start doing your pen boss gear attempts, they're a great level for TET Blackstar, they're a great level, the ideal level in the soft cap for TET accessories. It's just such a bottleneck resource for serious enhancers. And the thing is, in order to get to 100 fail stacks, your base enhancement chance, in order to get it to 100, basically the only really solid option you have, and there's a couple exceptions, like you can throw on Blackstar, but that's getting a little too complicated for this video, but the only really reasonable solid option that you have in order to go all the way from 50 to 100 fail stacks is to just do your TET attempts. It doesn't have to be on boss gear, but doing TET attempts. And, if you go from 50 to 100, that means that you're going to have to fail 10 of them in a row. And, for some of you guys, you might be like, hey, no problem. I'm very good at failing 10 things in a row. But it can be very difficult to do that. Like the chances of you going from 50 stacks to 100 stacks on TET attempts and ending off all the way at 100 without a single success is pretty low, actually. You'd be surprised. It's only going to happen like something out of, 1 in 5, 1 in 6, 1 in 7 chances. Most of the time, you're going to end up hitting your TET item before then. So if you are low on fail stacks, if you do not have a whole bunch of 100 stacks, if you're a more intermediate or advanced enhancer, I am actually okay with delaying using your VALKS Cry until you get to 100 fail stacks. Now, I will say though, mathematically speaking, if you take a look at the numbers, the value, and you kind of crunch it, which I'm not going to go and do a bunch of math stuff on video right now, it would be too confusing. I'll just tell you guys that mathematically speaking, it is still better. It is the better choice to use them when you start your TET attempts before 100, because you're giving up a decent percentage chance to end up hitting things like TET boss gear, and the value of TET boss gear and the increased chance that you have to success is going to outvalue the VALKS Cry, of course, and it's going to outvalue the increased chance to get fail stack levels. This is really only an option because fail stacks, like, if you need them and you don't have them, you don't really have a lot of options, so you might have to end up making a play like that in order to end up getting them. So it's okay, but I still generally think that the better play is to use them when you start your TET boss gear attempts. Now, the big one here, and this is the level that I would say at this point, if you have not used your VALKS Cry, you absolutely 100% want to. And I have one right here, and that's going to be right at this point. So you can see here, we've got a 100 stack. This is the base enhancement chance, right? So it's a 100 stack. We got the VALKS Cry, and the extra level comes from my ruler piece bonus. If you end up getting to 100, at that point, basically use your VALKS cry. Like, there's very few exceptions that you wouldn't. One of those exceptions, if you end up falling into any of those exceptions, you're already an advanced player doing things beyond the level of this video here, so I don't really need to get into it. But basically, everyone at that point, if you have not used VALKS enhancement chance, absolutely do it. It's basically a must. No matter what you're really doing at this point, TED accessories, absolute must. Like, you're gonna lose a fortune if you don't. TED Black Star, absolutely. I mean, it's a 10+ billion silver item. You want to give yourself that extra couple % chance to get that. The value of the VALKS cry is going to be so much less than the extra enhancement chance that you end up getting for those really high ticket items. And obviously, if you're doing pen attempts, you know, that's an even bigger example. You've got items that are worth 15, 20+ billion silver. So the cost of the VALKS cry, the value of them of a few million silver each, it's really nothing in comparison to the extra chance that you give yourself in order to end up getting those items. So those are really all the important like level breakdowns of kind of what your options are for VALKS cries. And I wanted to go over this here and give you guys my opinion, my thoughts, my breakdown here, as well as, you know, kind of how to proceed for each of the different brackets of fail stack levels, and pick what's going to suit you best. So with that being said, though, that's actually going to be about it for the video. I think I threw enough info at you guys for today. So we're going to end up leaving it here and wrapping it up. So thank you very much for watching. If you guys made it to the end, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully you guys enjoy the videos and they do help out. And if you enjoy and you want more videos like this in the future, you can trust me when I say many are coming very, very soon. Consider leaving a like, consider subscribing. Feel free to leave a comment as well. I try my best to read them all. And with that being said, though, that's going to be it. Have a great day, and until next time.